So that started a whole search on how to keep
The 16th
these.
lobe.
How do we make it stronger?
We started out by making them a little bit bigger and putting big block bearings in.
Yep.
And that helped, but it didn't fix.
Yep.
Then we made steel ones that we couldn't figure out the compatibility with the lifters, and so we welded around all the lobes with a Stellite welding.
Yeah.
Chris almost went to jail in
sure
North
did.
Carolina.
Yeah, that's a whole other story there.
Smuggling exotic alloys out of North Carolina.
I wish it than that. It
We
was-
just found the one guy that knew how to do it.
Remember our story about partnering with crooks?
Oh,
yeah,
man.
we did that again.
Well, with sort of.
yeah.
The dad was good. The son was a little shaky.
yeah.
But Chris didn't go to jail, and we got through that, and it evolved into something that it is. Well, I mean, it's not today. It's roller cams today, but
Well, we became the leaders in the metallurgy
yeah,
of how to make a flat tappet work with that camshaft.
We
Heat
went-
treat it. And
Well, what we found was powdered metal, which sounds crazy. You know, when you think of powdered metal, you think of what Holley makes carburetors out of, right?
yeah, right.
But we found a powdered metal that was a very high strength, high tensile strength steel alloy. And I actually went to the foundry where they make this stuff, and Scooter and I both been there.
in Pittsburgh.
It was incredible. I mean, you got a guy with, like Scooter head, the little propeller head guy, right? Yeah. And he's mixing a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of that, and he makes this giant molten vat of steel that produces these ingots that we would make camshafts out of. And
What industry was that? Was that completely proprietary to you guys, or was that something you found just by
we stumbled into it.
Yeah, what
and
were they
then
using it for?
The world found it.
Really? So you guys
Like,
were
like
one of
we
the
were
first-
like, hey, we found something, and we should have said, no, we don't know nothing. But yeah, we said, hey, we found something, and everybody's like, well, what exactly was it?
and you know, it was good.
Yeah.
We had a head start,
Yep.
and we pretty much worked that head start to our benefit, and turned out pretty well. But we had to. I mean, we stopped a lot of stuff that were going on at the steel foundry to learn how to make our tool
Yep.
steel to work in our lifter, our engines, our lifters,
Yep.
and I have a report that's probably 500 pages, an engineering report on the testing that they did and how they evaluated this steel to work with these lifters in this environment. And that rewrote.
And understand something. We had rules that we had to go under. So it had to be a cast iron tappet. It had to be 875 thousandths diameter. And we had a maximum of a 50 millimeter bearing. So everything had to fit within this, this tight little box, right?
Yeah.
And we had to figure out how to make it work. And when I talk about the steel mill, okay, picture that video you've seen of the giant ladle of molten steel pouring.
with the guy in the potato suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where
it.
we were.
Yeah.
And it was just crazy, right?
Yeah.
You know, these guys that make camshafts are trying to figure this out. And we had some of the most talented engineers in the world, okay? Guys like Billy Godbold and Thomas Griffin that, you know, we'd be like, hey, this doesn't work. Why doesn't it? And they would figure out why. And, you know, we did things that were so far beyond our capabilities, but we figured out how to do it because we all had one common goal, and that was to win that championship.
From the outside, it looked like we knew what we were doing. We had not a fucking clue. I assure you.
I'm sure it wasn't
Wait a
just
minute.
luck.
Wait a minute, though. When Billy came in, though.
Oh,
Or like, that had to be
I have to admit, that's my fault.
was him.
I hired Billy.
like, but I,
Okay,
Billy is
so Billy
the god of.
is probably top 3 in the world right now on engine development.
Yeah.
And I'm not exaggerating that. Okay, he's
I don't doubt
he's
it.
one of the best there is on
Billy-
engine development.
I bet if you put Billy onto, like, I don't know, pantyhose development,
Oh my God.
it would be game on.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
like
yeah,
whatever
yeah,
it is with
yeah.
him, he's gonna go after it.
He is.
a
Yeah.
million%.
And what
he's gonna be the expert on it within a year.
So what I learned about Billy early on, and I hired him to work on the CompCam's tech line.
Yeah.
And we made him work there for a year.
Really?
We were like, okay, you're going to do this for a year.
He was
And he's like,
answering customer service calls.
yes. It was like, challenge accepted. I'll do it, you know?
We
And-
said before you're going to go over here and make parts, you're going to learn what it is they
yeah,
want.
yeah, yeah.
Looky here, you
Yeah.
nerdy guy.
Oh,
Like
my
whatever.
God, yeah. And I love Billy like a brother,
I want,
right?
By the way, Billy Godbold, if you're out there, I want you on here.
Yeah, I mean, it was
He
an
needs to be on.
I mean, we'll
incredible.
get him on here.
Yeah, it was an incredible ride.
We'll
but-
get him down here in one of these chairs.
Yeah. So what I learned about Billy is a math junkie.
Yeah.
Okay, there are people that know math,
Yeah.
and then there's Billy.
Yeah.
And Billy knows math like no one freaking knows math.
Yeah.
Don't ever question him on a
Yeah.
math question.
That's another story we can go into. But anyway, all camshaft design is geometry.
Yep.
It's that simple. It's geometry. And Billy knows geometry like nobody in the world. And then somehow Billy opened up his mind and he learned how does it affect the push rod and how does it affect the retainer and the valve lock and the valve. And he put all these pieces together in his head, and the guy can just do engine development in his head. He doesn't need a 3D model. He is a 3D model.
He didn't need a
And-
Spintron.
No, his Spintron just confirms what Billy already knew. And
One of the people at this table had to kind of guide him along in that path
I think both of us had to.
and stop him from any suicidal things that he might have done at the time. But Billy, and I told you I was at Blueprint Engines yesterday,
Yeah.
and they think he walked on water
Yeah.
Many people.
because he came in and helped them not just with the engines that we see, but some 16-cylinder, 28-liter something in Caterpillar that runs 1,800 RPM and a genset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or some 4-cylinder,
High rate.
Generac motor or something,
I mean,
something
he-
crazy.
He had this little motor on his desk that was a weed whacker engine that he was a big part in the development of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he just understands how that stuff works.
He's one of these guys that we were so fortunate to be part of that we helped mold him and shape him and what he did was just incredible. So I'll wrap up our Billy story with a Harvey Crane story. All right.
Yeah.
So everybody knows who Harvey Crane is. Crane Cams. He was our biggest competitor when we were
When we
in-
started out with comp cams
yeah.
Yeah.
in
Yeah. I was going to say, how's that?
1974-5,
Okay.
we were on Hanger Road, and I remember Evars. And you didn't know Evars. He was a little hard to understand because he was from Latvia.
Yeah.
But he was on the roof of the second story of our warehouse, and he had these boxes made that were the first comp cams boxes. And he said, "Here is the new dynasty.
Like the Holy Grail.
This is the new." And I said, "Evars, that says cans. It doesn't say cams." Holy shit. And you couldn't understand what he was saying, and they did it all verbally over the phone. I'd give anything if we'd have saved one of those boxes.
That thing's probably worth a lot of money now.
He made sure those got destroyed.
Yeah.
Hell of a can. You can put anything in
Go
them.
back to art.
Later in life, Harvey, every year, he would give a little bit of his company to the ESOP plan, which is the employee-owned program, right? And one year, he got to the point where the ESOP plan owned more than he did.
Uh-oh.
And this guy named Gene Izell, is Gene still around?
I think so.
Okay, so no
I
offense
mean, I
to
don't know if
Gene.
he's around. I think he's still alive.
Okay, well, no offense to Gene, but Gene was able to rally all the other employees to give him proxy to vote on their behalf. And Gene voted to fire Harvey Crane
Like,
from
the
his
controlling
own
interest.
company.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had 51%.
Yeah, right. That's all you need.
So
Fire
Harvey, you're out of here, right? So Harvey Crane
still
picks
gotta
up
pay
the,
me though.
not really. I think they screwed him out of that too. But anyway,
Yeah, move it on.
And they screwed a lot of people.
yeah,
But that's
Harvey
another story.
calls Scooter, says, Scooter, you're the guy that's going to put Crane Cams out of business. I want to help you do it. How can I help? So we built this relationship with Harvey Crane.
It started out where Harvey had a cam school.
Yep. And several of us, me being one, went down to Daytona, sat in the airplane hangar at Harvey's house, and went through cam school. And he taught us the basics of cam design and how it works. And
Now Billy goes
so
talking about math.
yeah. So Harvey had this algorithm.
What year is this?
Mid 90s, mid 90s.
They're using a projector, not a chalkboard.
Oh no, we were using like the overhead projector.
That's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
No, like you were all in
so-
school.
Yeah, right.
So Harvey has this this algorithm, and he showed it to me years before when I went through it, right? And it's like 25 digits long, and it's
Least.
the X plus
Squiggly-
this
squiggly
minus-
lines,
I
squiggly
mean,
lines.
who
It's all
fucking
this.
cares?
Oh, he looks like something Sheldon on the Big Bang
I
Theory
said-
wrote,
Yeah,
right?
Bang
You know.
Theory. I
So-
said, when do we eat?
Yeah. So we go through this class, and he's explaining this algorithm, and he does the same thing years later when we send Billy down. And it was one of these things where Harvey was so funny.
Just keep rolling.
So Harvey was so funny that he wouldn't let us wear a shirt or a jacket
That
that said
logo.
Comp Cams, right? So we're just some no-name dude in the
Right.
back, right? And so we go through this class, and Harvey's saying, this algorithm that I've written on the board back here, right? It's the basic laws of everything to do with cam design, right? Our man Billy raises his hand real quietly, says, "You've got a mistake."
I said, Harvey, this is wrong.
Nice.
And I
He,
mean,
and he was right. And he was right. I'm sure.
Harvey instantly turned as red as a beet.
Yeah. And he like banishes Billy. Get out of here. You don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Okay.
So anyway, Billy sits through and endures it and all this. And at the end of class that day, or no, it was the next day, Billy comes in and he's all humble and, I just want to go to school. And Harvey pulls him aside and says, "Billy, you were right. I had the algorithm written wrong."
And as it turns out, we all became best friends.
Great friends.
When Harvey's wife got sick,
Maxine.
well, first off, they used to get in the motorhome and ride all around the country. Well, they had cases of Comp Cam's catalogs in there, and they would hand them out to anywhere they stopped
Yeah.
Wow.
because they
mobile
promote
advertising.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, when she got sick, it just so happened that Billy was down there,
Yeah.
and Billy had to take her to the hospital. Take her, and Harvey said,
Had to drive
Harvey,
them.
she's got to go to the hospital right now,
Yeah.
and she ended up dying.
Oh.
But when Harvey got sick, Chris and I had to pretty much take care of Harvey, and we sent people down there to make sure he was fed and clothed and bathed, and
Yeah.
until he died, we made sure he was taken care of.
Yeah.
And it's just we talked about relationships and all that, and it's cool. All that stuff comes back around.
That's a pretty tight
When-
relationship.
Yeah.
though.
When Maxine died, I started calling Harvey every Tuesday at 10 o'clock in the morning.
He
Just
was
check on
lonesome.
him. Just check on him.
Yeah.
Hey, Harvey, how you doing?
Yeah.
And months and months later, I'm still like everyone at the office made fun of me. Like, what do you? Oh, it's 10 o'clock on Tuesday. Brown's calling Harvey, right? And it became where if I was late,
It was a problem.
I get my ass to
That's right.
Right. And if I didn't call by like 10:10, Harvey's calling
Calling
me.
you.
What the hell are you doing?
you okay?
Right.
Where you at?
And it became one of those deals where Harvey counted on that call every Tuesday at 10 o'clock.
He was a lonesome old man.
And it was the most special thing that I've probably ever done was being part of that guy's life. And we didn't talk about anything in the world except, 30 minutes about, Harvey, how are you doing? And to say that I'm sitting there, and at that time, I think I was the vice president of operations for Comp Cams. And every Tuesday, I got 30 minutes on the phone with Harvey Crane. And it was just the most special moment in the world, But it meant the world to him. It meant the world to me. And what I found out later when Harvey passed is it meant the world to Scooter. And it meant the world to all the guys around me who knew what I was doing because, like we're talking about, it was that relationship that we had with those people. And we built those relationships and we cared about the people. And it wasn't about the camshaft that day. It was about him and how he's doing and all that. And when Harvey died, Scooter and I flew down to Florida, and we walked into the church proudly.
Yeah,
And sat there, and all these crane people are looking at us like, "What the hell are you doing here?" You know, and we're like,
We were
The
still
man-
involved with him.
"The man was a friend of mine. What were you?" You know,
That's right.
and it was this weirdest thing in the world, but that was what we built that company on, was that relationship, and it was just so special. But anyway, it was just a really, really strange deal. But man, I loved it. I wish he was here today to sit at this table with us. You guys would have a ball with him. But it was just one of those things.
That's really cool.
one more. We're out of time, but we'll do one more.
We're not out of whiskey though.
I know, good.
It's funny how those two are not related.
We're talking about relationships, and I'm going to talk about another good friend. A man by the name of Buddy Ingersoll from Southern Illinois started out, he had a 56 Chevrolet stock or super stock car. He ran at Lakeland. And we kind of knew each other then, but then
I didn't know Buddy Ingersoll ran like at here all the time, or you meant just
This is Ingersoll and Rand. Buddy.
No.
Buddy Ingersoll?
This is a guy by the name of Buddy Ingersoll from Southern Illinois that
Okay, sorry.
was just a racer.
Okay.
And he we got to be pretty good friends. And he bought an Oldsmobile super stock car that was so badass he won every single meet. I mean, every single meet.
Yeah.
One of those guys that they write rules against.
And I'm getting to that.
Yeah.
One year, a week before the U.S. Nationals, he got a letter and it said every 1972 Oldsmobile Cutlass super stock car is factored by 10 horsepower.
Which is a big deal.
Yeah.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
So he called me and he said, "What do we do?" And I thought about it and I looked and I studied.
First answer was change the body on the car.
That's exactly what I would have said. I would have like, we're going to change the chassis.
We got to that and said, it appears to me that a 71 is the
That's
same
right.
as a 72 except for the cylinder heads. We can fix that. So that day we fixed a set of heads and he went and got all the body parts. That was when they made you have everything just so.
Yeah.
He changed the body parts and he rolled into Indianapolis, got into the tech line, and they came up, said, "Ingersoll, what the hell are you doing with this super stock whatever on there? You got factored 10 horsepower." He said, "Oh, that was a 72. This is a 71. And they said, "We don't care what it is. Buddy Ingersoll is factored 10 horsepower."
Oh.
So he went along that race and kicked their ass and won the U.S. Nationals. Anyway.
With a 10 horsepower.
Yeah. So it went on, and he bought a little Pinto from the guys that worked at Jack Roush's.
Okay.
Little four-cylinder turbocharged Pinto.
2300.
A 2000.
2000. Yeah, 2000.
Before the 2300. And we started piddling with that, and it started going a little faster and a little faster. And I remember one day I said, "Buddy, why don't we gasport these pistons?" He said, "I don't know." The guys at Roush said, "Absolutely not." Said, "Turbo engines, you can't gasport the pistons." So I don't know how a piston knows that it's got a turbo on it. Let's try it.
Piston, right?
And we went to Columbus for the whatever it was, and he just murdered. He went out. I said, "Buddy, don't go out there fast. Just see what it does."
Yeah, don't kill.
Just go
They
out.
went out and run a full second under the index,
No.
and they said, "That can't be right. There must have been a hot dog wrapper flew through the lights. We're disallowing that run."
Nice.
So he went back again, ran 1.1, and
Faster.
Yeah.
he
Two
won
hot
that
dog
race.
wrappers.
But they factored him again. But the point is, he called me one day, and this goes back to you just do what you got to do.
Yeah.
One day he's running the World Finals in Ontario, California, and we didn't know anything about turbos. Well, I mean, I don't think I'd ever even seen one. And
And the one on the car was only about that big.
yeah, he was a
around.
little bitty guy.
Yeah, back then they were.
It was like a production
That's
model.
all you had. Yeah.
So he calls me and he said, "This thing won't make any boost. It just won't run." I said, "Well, what makes it make boost?"
Because you
Well,
don't know.
there's this bolt on it that they told me to tighten down when I want it to make more boost.
The wastegate.
The wastegate valve.
I said, "Well, tighten it down." He said, "I already did." So what happens if you just take it off and you make a plate and put over it and just no
Torque the
wastegate?
shit out of it.
Wow.
Well, I don't know what'll happen.
Let's find
All
out.
of the
I
boost
said,
happens?
"Well, how many motors do you have? I mean, how many rounds do you have to make? 4. How many engines do you have? 4. I said, "Okay, here's the
one round.
plan."
We're in.
So he goes out there and he kicks their ass and won the world championship because I was there that day.
Yeah.
I'd
With the
flown out.
wastegate at 0.
Completely.
No way.
He won the world championship,
How hot.
and I have the National Dragster. I just found it that has the picture of him accepting the trophy, and I'm standing there in the picture at the banquet after the World Finals.
You have more than the National Dragster.
Well,
Yeah.
I also have the car.
Oh, you actually. Oh,
Yeah, that car showed up for sale somewhere, and I told my guy, Bill Alexander, I said, "We need that car." So he went and bought the car, and it's sitting in our place right now. And
So in 2023, Scooter says, "I'll have that 72 Pinto."
And everybody said, "Why?"
well, it's the legacy is all
Yeah.
it is.
No, that's
And
so cool.
they're going to go back and repaint it just like it was when Buddy won the race and all that stuff.
It's where now?
at Driven.
At Driven.
over on Democrat Road.
What's the status?
Don't mess with that. That has to go to the Riders reunion.
Well, there you go.
It's funny you say that, but yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah,
it's,
no, that
it's
sounds
there and
perfect.
it's can do that.
I mean, it's
amazing.
painted this copper color that Buddy had.
Yeah,
before
I don't
he
think
won the
it'll run
trophies,
right
yeah.
now, but it's
Got the 2000.
Does it still have the turbo?
We
and
will
everything?
push it in there. I don't care.
Still have the turbo.
but,
Everything's
but
still.
that car.
How's the wastegate?
It looks
Well,
like it's
and-
bolted
and-
down.
All the way down.
I've seen the car because it was burgundy.
Yeah, it's still kind
It's
of
this
burgundy
weird
looking.
color. Yeah.
But it's still to this day has got a plate bolted over the exhaust where the wastegate should be.
wastegate.
You don't need that.
He never ran a wastegate again.
Holy shit!
Well, it turns
And
out.
it never blew the motor.
Well, we believe
well,
motors.
yeah, I mean, we learned how to work around that.
But he just quit using wastegates.
But he turned around buying a V6 Buick with a turbo.
There
on
it is. Grand National.
And what that guy did with a V6 turbo
Yeah.
is just incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, he set the world on fire with a V6 when the rest of the world was running V8s.
Right. But this is Buddy Ingersoll different than Ingersoll ran?
Yes.
Yes.
There's no
the
connection
same.
at
Okay,
all.
because I
No,
I
different
know
guys.
the name Buddy Ingersoll from
Well, yeah.
racing, but
And he's-
it wasn't.
Ingersoll
I
ran
guess I just always assumed that Ingersoll ran
No.
is Buddy Ingersoll.
No.
No.
Buddy was just a guy from a coal mining town up in southern Illinois that worked on cars
Like to go fast.
and liked to go
Not-
fast
not
and
a rich
Yeah.
dude, not
No,
nothing.
no.
and didn't let. No, he's definitely not a,
Not a rich dude.
Wow.
Talking
But-
about the
Budget racer with the
He
heart.
never
talking about the
let.
bad check deal. Yeah.
Well, no, but he never let anything get in the way of him doing what he needed to do.
And he had this knack for doing more with less.
Yeah.
If everybody was running 8 cylinders, he'd run 6.
Well-
if everybody else was running
Well,
6,
he went
he'd run 4.
to Bristol at an IHRA race, and the rules said that he could run pro stock.
Yeah.
And he went out there and ran pro stock and was runner up in the meet and should have won. And just didn't. And then they quickly changed the rules where he couldn't run anymore.
Yeah. Did you think the same thing I thought? Like, Buddy Ingersoll from
That's
that's
exactly what I thought.
totally. I
Different
grew up
people.
in that era, and it was like Ingersoll. You saw him run all the time. Like the guy won
That's
a
him.
ton, and I thought it was the same.
He didn't see the
person.
differentiation. He thought
Yeah.
they were the same.
Different
I
guys.
totally thought that.
I knew better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, of course you did.
Yeah, yeah. He didn't even know who the hell.
You're the
Ingersoll
only
was.
one with any sense around here.
See, and he was one of my dearest friends, too.
Oh, it's amazing.
And Gordon and I went up and visited him just about a week before he died.
Wow.
And a wonderful man. And his son now crew chief, if you will, the brains behind Erica Enders and all that crowd in Pro Stock.
Yeah, the Pro Stock team.
Yeah.
So Scooter, I've got
Which, by the way, Billy does the cams for.
Yeah.
So
Which,
anyway.
by the way,
And we
I just got a weird question, Scooter.
Okay.
So it seems like you go see all these people before they pass.
Yeah, I know.
So my question is, are they sick before you get there,
Yeah.
or you show up and they pass
no,
away?
I
Are you
mean,
like you're like that? You're like that. He's like that cat at the
Yeah.
nursing home that comes around.
He wears a black Holocaust cape and carries a sickle. You know,
Right, right.
well, I mean, they're very sick, and
Okay,
and
okay.
I'm glad. Some of the most special times of my life are visiting with those people right before they are gone. But
Yeah.
Buddy was
amazing.
was a very dear friend, and at one time he sent me this drawing, a pencil drawing of his Pinto that somebody had done for him. It was very nice, and I sent him back a note when he was sick, and at the time, everybody had turned their back on him. His son went away, his wife went away, and he lived in his shop with his cars.
Wow.
And I sent him this and with a little note that said, I thought you might enjoy having this. Well, when I went up there to see him, that was right above his bed, and that note was pinned right to it. Well, and I learned this just a week or so ago that Mark Ingersoll, Buddy's son that works for Richard Freeman,
Yeah.
has got the same lung disease that if he doesn't get a lung transplant, he'll die.
This is a hereditary.
I guess so.
No, it has a lot to do with the cigarettes they were smoking.
Well, I know, but they should have done the Hawaiian elephant stick. It'd have been better.
Yeah, those were much healthier.
Right, aren't they?
But the the point is, you make friends in this journey that we're on.
Absolutely. And if you don't, then why you make it?
If you don't, why do it? And it's pretty cool when you get to where I am and you're on the tail end of the journey and you look back and you think, it's been okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me throw something in here. I'm going to change subjects for a bit. So I want to talk about Robert Yates. Okay, I'm the NASCAR guy, so that's what I did for so long.
Yeah.
Robert Yates was an absolute icon like Scooter in the NASCAR world. He was the engine builder.
Wonderful man.
Wonderful man. He figured out everything. He did it from hard work and sweat, just like the rest of us did, right? So Robert has a son named Doug Yates, and Doug's a great guy. And when Doug got out of college,
About Chris's age.
he's
Yeah.
15 months older than me.
Okay.
I remind him of that every year. But anyway, Doug got out of college. Robert gave Doug a business card for Scooter Brothers. Said, I'm not going to make your career for you, right? I want you to call this guy, and I want you to learn how to build restrictor plate engines, and I want you to be the best there is at building restrictor plate engines, right? And like Scooter's dad, like you talked about earlier, Robert had set this all up with Scooter. Said, hey, I'm going to have my son call you. I need you to take care of him and guide him, right? So Robert calls. I'm sorry, excuse me. Doug calls, and he's like, Mr. Brothers, this is Doug Yates. And Scooter's very magnanimous, says, look, don't call me Mr. Brothers. My name's Scooter. Let's talk. And he says, what do you want? He says, well, Dad's told me to build restrictor plate engines. And in this era, okay, we're talking about Davey Allison.
Yeah, right.
Okay, one of the best there is, the 28 Haviland car, one of the most high-profile teams there is.
Yeah.
And he's turning it over to his 20-year-old son, Doug. Say, hey, I want you to do this. So at that time, I'm in the tech office, taking tech calls for comp cams. And Scooter walks in with Robert Yates, and I shit my pants a little bit. I'm like, oh, my God, And there's this kid behind him who looks my age. I'm like, who's that guy? What the hell's he doing?
I'll attach to him anyway.
Yeah. Who's he? Who cares, right? And we didn't even meet that trip.
Yeah.
And years go on, and Scooter guided Doug and said, you need to focus on this, and you need to learn about that, and try these, and all these things. And he turned Doug into a restrictor plate guy.
And I didn't know anything. It wasn't about plate or
No.
cams. It was about how to think.
Yeah. Here's your problem. How do you address it?
And don't be afraid. Don't just be brave and go and think the problem through and do it.
And here's the resources that we have, and how can we apply those resources to help you with this problem? And the problem back then was, how do you get all this air through this little bitty hole?
It's hanging up here somewhere.
Yeah, I've got one.
You got
right
a
there.
distractor
Back
plate
there.
over there? That's
Right there.
awesome. Hell yeah.
Don't tell anybody I have that, by the way.
That's not
That's a real one. That's not a plate.
Yeah.
No, that's just a piece
Pretty
of metal.
sure I'm not supposed to have that.
nobody watching our stuff.
It fell into my briefcase. But anyway,
You hear that, Finland?
That's right.
so we just focused on how do you get all this air and fuel through this damn little hole.
Yeah.
And as much as I love NASCAR, I hate them at the same time because they made rules that were so simple, but my God, they were hard to break.
Yeah.
And that was my job, to break the rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the restrictor plate was one of those things. You could not break that.
We just had to find another way.
We had to find another way. And I'm not talking about
They always find another one.
I'm not talking about drilling holes through the middle of the carburetor studs that bleed into the
Not
intake
talking
manifold.
about the
No.
spacer coming up against.
cheating.
No, we
Well,
we
I
didn't
mean,
do
it's-
any of that.
It's the same thing in NHRA.
Yeah,
Same thing.
We're running 1,000 feet now, and they're running as fast as they were.
Yeah,
in quarter.
yeah.
So same
But
deal.
It was our job. Here's the rules. How do we make this package work? And so somehow later in my career, later in Doug's career, we get matched together.
Well, calm down now. Let's go back to the first race that Doug ever took his engine
oh,
to the
God.
Daytona 500. First race, Doug Yates. Dad has passed this over to me.
First engine for him.
First
in the
engine
Daytona.
ever.
First engine to show up at a racetrack.
Yes.
Oh, so
For
no,
him.
no pressure.
None.
For him. Yeah.
And the pictures on my wall in my office, which, by the way, some of your people were cleaning out upstairs and threw it
don't-
away because they
don't-
didn't know who they were.
Don't tell that story.
Oh my
Let's
God.
just move on.
We
Move
went
on.
and found it,
Yeah.
drug it out of the garbage
No,
can.
move on. Move on.
So Daytona,
Same ones that-
first engine Daytona.
Yeah.
First engine Daytona, after Doug and I worked together for a year on this plate motor, his engines are sitting on the front row, both cars, by a good bit and win the race by a good bit.
Yeah.
And, you know,
that's a
that
good
was
day.
pretty special. And to this day, he calls me his racing dad.
Yeah.
And he's come to me with some problems, both personal, professional, that I know that he treats me like his dad.
Yeah.
So Doug and I grew up in this world. Okay. I had Scooter in my life. He had Robert in his life. Robert was an icon in my world. Scooter was an icon in his world. So Doug and I were almost forced together in this world, right? And today, I've been out of this world for 8 years, but today he and I are still great close friends.
Yeah.
We talked just last week about some things, and it's just one of those things that I mean, I'm going to go out and say, you knew that his wife was pregnant before his parents did.
Yep.
And I mean,
Sorry, parents.
And it's
Yeah,
what do I do?
yeah,
type
what do I
thing.
do with this? Yeah, and it's-
And the parents didn't like the girl.
Yeah.
yeah, it was a mess.
It was a mess.
But
But it's turned out
wonderful.
well.
Yes.
Turned out wonderful. And Whitney's a wonderful woman, and they have wonderful children together. But, you know, it's just one of those things that I would get a call
I can relate to that, by the way, but
Yeah, I would get a call from Robert Yates saying, Chris, what do you think about shortening the stroke in this engine? What do you say, right? I'm Chris Brown. I'm this nobody that works at Comp Cams, and I've got the
Looking at you as
world's
the expert,
leading
though,
engine
right?
builder in NASCAR asking me my opinion.
Oh, it's really easy though. Whenever I'm in that situation,
Yeah, whatever you think,
That's
Robert,
it.
is
You
right.
do the psychiatrist thing. You're like,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
do you feel? You
till it
and-
blows up.
Yeah,
then
it's
it
all
comes
great
back
until
to
the
you,
crankshaft
right? Yeah.
falls out on the ground and you run over it like a speed breaker.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Back
But
to you.
people like Robert were so good for us
Yeah.
and to us,
Right.
and helped us and held our hand. And
but it goes back to what you were saying. It's those relationships, okay?
Yeah.
When Robert passed away, Robert got sick with cancer and he passed away, and he had been gone a couple of years, and they inducted him into some Hall of Fame. I think it was in North Carolina. Motorsports
something like that.
Hall of Fame, right? And Scooter calls me, and I'd been gone from Comp Cams for 2 or 3 years, and he says, "Hey, Doug wants us to come to this
Induction
banquet,
banquet or
induction
something."
dinner thing," and I'm like, hell no, I'm not going. And he says, what do you mean you're not going? I'm like, Scooter, I've been going 3 years. Those guys don't care about me.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
They don't. Who's Chris Brown? Don't worry about it. I'm not going. He's like, you got to go. I'm like, I'm not going. Oh, you're going. And anyway, I took orders from my old boss and got on the plane and we went, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm not exaggerating. I was very, very, very nervous about showing up at this event
Yeah.
because it was a black tie deal. This is a big deal in that world. And it was a banquet hall with what, 2,000 people?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, when I see these guys, they're going to look at me and say, what in the hell are you doing here? You don't work here anymore, right? That's what I expected.
Just the opposite of that, though.
Yeah.
I walked in, and the first guy I saw was Doug, and he walks up and he gives me this big, giant hug, and he's like, I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah.
It means the world to me, and it would mean the world to Dad that you're here.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, wait, what's happening, And everyone that we saw, and
then
Scooter
Roush
and I,
comes up and
Jack,
Childress comes up and
that
on and
whole community embraced both of us like long lost brothers.
Yeah.
and at the time Comp was long out of that game.
Yeah.
NASCAR
You know,
game.
yeah.
They don't forget the founders.
And it was one of those deals where every one of them to a person said, "Man, I remember what you did for us. Man, it's great to see you. How
Yeah.
are you? And how have you been? How are your kids? I just hadn't caught up with you in a years. Where have you been? What are you doing now?" And it was the most special night of my life. And we sat at a table right next to Jack Roush and Doug Yates at the lead table.
Yeah.
And it was just the coolest night in the world. And and it all goes back to, we weren't just making camshafts. We were making relationships. We were making friends. We were making people. And yeah, we were winning races. We were winning championships. We were winning this and we were winning that. But it was all about the personal connection
Yep.
between him and I that was just incredible.
Absolutely.
I know I'm focusing on Doug, but and I love him to death. But there's so many more. There's Spinny Clendenin and RCR. and
Well,
it's just an incredible thing, man.
What did so I always heard the story about Roush would fly in there. I think it was Roush would fly in and he'd have a suitcase or whatever, come in, do testing, whatever, and then go back out. I don't know if that's
They do it all the time.
like
He would do, whether he come in physically or we do it over the phone or whatever,
yeah.
but he would call at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
and say, "Here I've been." And I said, "What the fuck are you doing calling me?" What he said, "I don't know what time it is. It doesn't matter. We're working."
Yeah.
And he would literally call in at 9 o'clock in the morning and say, "I've been thinking we need this cam 2 degrees less."
So I need you to design this
Yeah, design
and
it.
test it and make me a part to race tomorrow.
And at the time, we
be
didn't
there.
have CNC grinders.
No.
We had to make a master.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, by the way, I just sent my plane, so he'll be there at 5 o'clock."
So you gotta get it done before he gets there.
And we did.
Wow.
And the dyno sheet would be on the fax machine the next morning.
Yeah,
there
here
was
it
no email for
Here's
that.
what it did.
And that's the way you made progress in those days. And it was really, really cool.
So I got a crazy question. Well, I don't know. It may back up way too much. But when did Comp go over there across from where Driven is now? Because that was after Driven was there first, right?
Well, no.
No? Oh, okay.
No, when RHS and Comp were both over on Hanger Road,
Right.
and the airport said, "We're going to expand this runway.
Okay.
We're going to buy these buildings.
You got to go.
You got to go." So we moved RHS fairly quickly into that building, the
Democrat.
the west building. Not the RHS building wasn't there at the time. It was just a woods.
Okay. So RHS went into the Comp building.
What is now considered the Comp building.
Yeah.
Down the
So
street
in-
from Rick's.
In
Yeah.
1985,
Where the cam shop is.
In 1985, they bought
coating.
the Democrat Road facility.
Yeah.
It was a great big building. I think it was,
Okay.
what, 300?
About 300,000.
And first to move in there was RHS, and then
We driving him
Comcast.
crazy.
No, I think he's laughing at something I said.
Yeah.
Oh,
And so first RHS moved into that facility in the front, and then Comp Cams moved into the back. And so Comp Cams' warehouse was in where the cam shop is now. And the front of it had a little showroom where we would sell speed parts through RHS. And then the back of the building was Comp Cams.
Rick Sparks was in charge of the showroom.
I worked for Rick Sparks in the showroom. That was good times. But anyway,
I went to the. I mean, when I remember RHS in the Driven building. Or
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay,
now.
that was
and
like-
that was a RHS.
Well, see,
Yeah, that
the
was-
front of that was RHS.
and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
But 85, they move into that building, and I think we built that other facility, and RHS moved over there in 1990, 1991. somewhere around.
88 is when the stop bitch and start stitching.
Okay. Famous letter
Where Evars wrote this
yeah.
letter to, and he took over RHS.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he said, I want to build a building right there. And we said, Evars, you can't afford that. Well, that's what I want. Well, you can't afford it. Well, you put it up, I'll rent it from you. So we got on a bulldozer and cleared the property and put up a building.
Stewart
And
did. No, it's not Stewart. No.
Somebody did.
I,
He had
I
people
played,
for that.
I played on it
people.
some,
Yeah,
but
right.
anyway, that became the RHS building then.
Okay.
And then that freed up the whole other side for Comp Cams. And about that time,
And we kept growing, and we filled that whole facility.
yeah,
1990, I moved from RHS to Comp.
89, I moved from RHS to Comp.
Yeah,
and
I
I brought
followed him.
Chris with him.
I was like, holy crap, I'm not staying here without him. So,
Follow. Yeah.
And
Smart move,
And the
Chris.
two, yeah, it worked out well for me. But the companies kind of, if you picture the old scale, right? RHS was here, Comp Cams was down here, and as time went on, it did this.
Yeah.
And eventually, RHS just went away.
Evars unfortunately had a vision that just couldn't work anymore.
No,
Smart guy, had a good vision.
great guy.
It's just that times outran him.
Yeah.
I've heard.
Sorry.
I've heard so. I mean, I never met Evars. I just heard so much about him, about how great of a guy he was, and
He was a really cool guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the RHS name is owned by someone. It's still
It's owned by Comp.
It's owned by Comp.
Okay.
Edelbrock Group.
okay.
Yeah, the
but,
I tried to get it back. I asked Chris to give it back to me, and I don't know what I'd do with it.
Not me.
What are they
Chris
doing?
Douglas,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
me.
What are they doing with it?
Yeah.
but
Nothing.
But for a quick-
Nothing. We still have the RHS block.
Yeah.
And then some heads. I think.
Yeah.
it was an Australian company for a minute, wasn't it? Didn't some?
No. So we talked.
So we bought what used to be Pro Topline cylinder heads, which was a New Zealand company,
Oh,
not
this
to be
is the New
confused with
Zealand.
an Australian company.
Okay,
My
gotcha.
Kiwi friends would thank you for
That's right. And we started making cylinder heads under the RHS brand that were the old
Yeah.
Pro Topline. We redesigned them and made some improvements.
Gotcha.
And we did
Okay.
that.
Yeah, so I was talking to Scooter earlier before we started this.
Okay.
That I had done. I was looking on YouTube. On YouTube, the Comp Cam's YouTube site, there is an old video on there of RHS, and it's like them down there.
That was
in
a
New
badass
Zealand
production facility,
Yeah,
man.
at a foundry down in New Zealand. I was like, what?
We're talking
I
about
didn't realize
making
this was
making
down
cylinder
there.
heads
Yeah.
from sand castings.
I mean, it
Right.
was a
incredible.
totally CNC
Yeah.
robotic transfer line.
Yeah.
It was really ahead of its time, but
10 years ahead of everyone else.
you can't outrun a crook.
Yeah. There wasn't any money in it. It was great, except we didn't make any money.
Probably coulda. We didn't because
Well, you have a really good video on YouTube, though.
Yeah. Ron and I sat down and said, "What do we do?" And he said, to his credit, "Well, we have to close it down, and we have to make sure we pay everybody that we owe."
Yep.
That's a big deal to him.
yeah.
That's good.
And we paid tax people, we paid electric bills, we paid way more stuff
We
than
paid
almost
everybody in New
anybody
Zealand.
ever would have done
Yeah.
when they're 10,000 miles away closing a business. But
Yeah.
he said, "I just won't feel good unless we pay everybody that we owe every penny."
Good for him. Good for him.
And there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that RHS thing was the New Zealand thing. in theory was a great idea. They still, to this day, those cylinder heads were as good a cast iron cylinder head casting that you could get.
Yeah.
People still want them,
Yeah.
but you can't get them. I mean, they're gone.
Yeah.
And we gave the tooling to somebody, I don't remember who, Paula Flowers, I think, at
Arrow.
Louisville.
Is it Arrow?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay.
So
Anyway.
Scooter, tell us about Driven.
Okay.
We haven't really got on that. We've kind of danced around it a little bit. What?
Let me start.
Okay,
If you
let's
don't
do it.
mind.
Go ahead.
Okay. We're going to go back to Indy, okay, to the Brickyard 400.
Did you
So-
make this deal, Chris? Is that what you're saying?
I was
right?
there. I was there.
He lubed it up.
I lubed it up. That's right. So when Joe Gibbs Racing went into NASCAR, they started out in NHRA and then they went into NASCAR. And Mark Cronquist was the head engine builder there for Joe Gibbs. And Mark wasn't satisfied with the oil he was getting from all these, whether it's Exxon or Havoline or whoever. He just didn't like the oil. So he went and had his own oil made, which sounds easy, but it's not. It's a very complicated process. And he started making his own oil. And he went to Joe and said, hey, this stuff's pretty good. We should sell it. We should bottle it and sell it. That's every entrepreneur's dream. Let's bottle this and sell it, right? And they started doing that. And it was okay. It was good stuff. And we were up at Indy at one of these crazy dinners for the Brickyard 400 one night. And we were there with J.D. Gibbs, right?
Wonderful man.
Yeah, great
That's
guy.
another story at another time. But
we could talk for hours about
and
J.D.
he's dead now, but he's a
Yeah.
wonderful
Right.
man.
I've heard great things about it.
Yeah, great guy. And Scooter and I are there with the coach wasn't there, but JD was there. JD ran the business side for Coach Gibbs and Mark Cronquist, and Mark and I are buddies, and we're sitting over here to the side and let Scooter and JD deal with all
and
this
Lake
crap.
and
Lake
I looked
Speed.
I don't know who. It was a bunch of people
Yeah,
because
there
I
was-
had to pay the bill. We were
Yeah,
at
it was great.
St. Elmo's.
Actually, I think you
Cost a
gave
fortune.
Actually, I think you gave me the
I
bill.
probably
but
did.
anyway,
So here, you take care of that.
St. Elmo's for group of 10. Thank you very much. But anyway, so and we had this conversation, and it started out with, would you guys be interested in selling this oil for us, right? And by the end of the dinner, we'd all had a few drinks, and everything was going great, and Scooter had had 3 or 4 Bloody Marys, and it turned into, well, why don't I just buy the damn company from you?
And I said to JD and to Mark, said, you guys are going to screw this up. Don't do this.
Yeah.
Don't do it. You're going to screw it up.
Yeah.
And finally they said, well, we're going to do it. And I said, okay, good luck. And they did it.
And what they're talking about is they were going to go out and sell it themselves.
Yeah.
They're going to market it. They're going to build their own brand. They're going to do this. They're going to do that.
And as it turned out, that's Lake Speed talking to them because he wanted to keep a job.
Yeah. And don't think for a minute we don't love Lake.
Lake's a wonderful person
Yes.
and had an ideal position at that time.
Yeah, and if Lake was sitting here, I'd say the same story. Right.
Yeah.
Lake
Lake's
was looking
awesome.
out for Lake.
Yeah.
But 2-3 years later, it's not working so well. They're
And-
still tiny business.
Right.
JD calls me
Yeah.
and he said, we figured out we're in the race car business. We're not in the oil business.
Okay.
Would you take this if you just buy my inventory and give these guys a job, you can have it. So we went over there and that's what we did, and it's turned out good.
Yeah.
And we took Driven and brought Lake and had it for a number of years. And then when we sold Comp to IOP and they merged with Edelbrock, Ron and I decided we needed to keep something just to keep us active and keep us out of trouble.
Yeah,
Give
I
them
was gonna
something to
say,
do.
They were like, "Yeah, we're not ready
And we
for the rocket
carved
share
Driven
yet."
out,
Yeah,
and it drives Chris Douglas crazy because he wants it so bad he can taste it. And we managed to grow it a little bit and give it its own presence. And Lake left. We were fortunate enough to hire, I don't know how the good Lord sent him to us, but the perfect guy for the job, who had been in specialty oil blending for 20-something years and loved racing and high performance and wanted to work for a smaller performance-based company, and so we hired Bill Alexander, and it's put us on a different journey.
Yeah.
And you got Rick Sparks to go with you from Comp Camps.
Yeah,
He
Rick
didn't
came
want to
with
go
us.
with the Edelbrock world.
Didn't want to go, but I told him, as I've told Chris, too bad. and Rick now works like a half a day a week, just as a there as a presence, which means a lot.
Right.
And so Driven's in a pretty good place right now. We've managed to have a pretty good growth this year.
It's in every one of my vehicles.
Everyone behind too, and all these behind us.
Did you pay for it?
I'm not going to answer that.
So let's.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, he
you
did.
did?
He did. He did.
Well, and you may not realize this, but Ricky and Michael Neal are also riders, and
Okay.
I know about Driven from those guys.
Cool.
So there you
Casey.
go.
And you know,
Yeah.
it's funny because I've been to several of your events, the coffee and cars things,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
cars and coffee. And one day I'm sitting there and I'm talking to all my buddies as normal, and a guy walks up in a Driven T-shirt,
Yeah.
and I'm like, that's cool. Where'd you get that? Oh man, I went over and met this guy, and I've got this '74 Corvette, and I want the best oil for it. And I talked to this guy over on Democrat Road, and he's the greatest guy in the world, and he best oil in the world. And I just got this 30-minute dissertation about how great the oil was, and I'm like, wow. I said, I was trying to plant a hook, but it's already set, and you're in the boat being filleted, pal. But it's one of those things that if you've got an older engine, say a flat tappet engine, the oils that you buy at all these box stores don't work in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it will fail the cam. It's that simple.
Right.
If you're running a flat tappet cam, you can't run this stuff that's on those shelf in these stores. Driven caters to that market. And if you've got a high performance engine, they cater to that market. They blend these little specialty oils that are what you need. I mean, this Camaro sitting behind us, yeah, it's an LS. It could run any oil it wants to, but it needs
gonna
the
sing.
Driven
Yeah,
oil.
it's gonna sing.
Exactly.
I mean, it's proven to. And we're picking the fly shit out of the pepper now on some of this stuff, but the oil is a little bit better than the other stuff is.
Yeah.
And the fly shit out of the pepper is a Glidden saying.
It sure is. It
Well,
sure
it's,
is.
I'm absolutely going to steal that.
So that's a good one.
I've heard Bob
From
say
now
that.
on, I will be using it. Yeah.
But you only have to be a little bit better to be better,
Yeah.
To be an expert.
to be an expert,
Or to
and
win.
or to win.
Right.
And I tell people, I told Norris Marshall, who owns Blueprint, just yesterday. I mean, last night we were on his airboat on the Platte River, and I said, Norris, do you want just
He
oil?
can't help himself, can he?
Yeah, we get it.
But I said,
You're a jet setter. We get it.
but I said,
I was at work yesterday, but
you could cut me off. We're already way over.
Yeah, we're right on time.
But I said, do you want just oil in your engines? These are the best engines. Do you want the best oil? He said, well, I guess you got me on that one. I said, okay, then think about that and we'll talk.
yeah.
But, and that's the thing is people want the best for their engine is their baby. They want the best.
If you look at that guy that has spent every spare dime he's got building his 72 Nova, and he's done everything he can to get every dime out of his wife. Right, guy like you, right? And the kid went without new shoes that year, and he doesn't need a calculator for school, all that stuff. Okay, that guy wants the very best product he can get. I don't care if it's an intake manifold or a cylinder head or a quart of oil. He wants the best he can get to put in his car.
And
I don't
he'll
care.
do what he has to do.
Yeah.
Well, so 1992 is when I bought that. When we bought that engine.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Somebody do some math on that.
It was a while, Sean.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Too much whiskey tonight
Yeah.
for that kind of
That
math.
would be 32.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So still running after all these years. It's probably got, I don't know, 90,000 to 100,000 on it.
You're not going
The
to tell me
blower
now
motor.
that it needs a warranty claim.
Right. I am actually, but no, that thing's still running. It is leaking a little.
Oh,
but that's,
well, we'll
That's
get on
not
that.
that's
Yeah.
not an oil. That's not an
Take
oil.
that
sign.
to Chris
you.
Brown.
Yeah.
There's a guy named Robert Pruitt. We need to go.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, still running, still great. It's Yeah, it's the only stuff I put in. But it's 50. I mean, I'm running 1550. 1550? No, 2050. Sorry, I get them mixed because
Doesn't mean much to you. Hannah and I,
550.
but to that guy Bill,
Yep.
he knows exactly what you're talking
20
about.
W50, boom, that's it.
I had a conversation
That's
with Bill
what he,
Alexander.
That's what he
about,
told me to run forever
Yeah.
ago, and that's
Yeah,
all
yeah.
I ever run.
I had a conversation with Bill Alexander about oil one time, and it was like 30 minutes.
Oh,
and he
I-
went
I did
so
that with
far
Lake.
over my head.
I mean, I did that.
Yeah,
with
Lake was
It
the same
like,
way,
Oh
yeah.
my god!
Well, I'm going to tell you, with all respect to Lake,
Yeah,
this guy Bill Alexander knows exactly what it is and all the background that it took to get there.
yeah,
Lake might have known here's what it is,
Yeah.
but he kind of
yeah,
and Bill.
yeah. He's there.
He's got
the
the DNA.
He's the chemical guy, right? But it was the same
scary.
thing as like, all right. So my biggest thing was that I had to take interviews with people like Billy Godbold and put them into layperson's terms and stuff.
It's tough,
And that was
isn't it?
Yeah, it's really, really hard. Even like same way. It's like
Yeah.
that is very hard to do with those guys.
Years ago, he sent me to the AETC conference with Billy, and he said, "I need you to keep Billy from getting over everyone's head, right?
No,
Because Billy can like say 3 words, and everybody in the stands or everybody in the crowd is lost, right? So I'm asking these questions. Hey, Billy, what do you think about such and such? And right, and I'm trying to bring Billy back down to the world of
Right.
the lay person in the crowd. Right? Billy's talking to the master engine builder in the crowd, but that guy's there's only 2 or 3
there's
of them in
like
this
2.
crowd of 200, right? And it was so funny because I pissed Billy off so bad. After the conference, he pulled me aside and he damn near grabbed me by the shirt. He's like, "Why are you doing this to me? You're heckling me." And I'm like, "I'm just trying to help," And it was one of those things where we've been so fortunate in our lives to have these experts in their field.
yeah,
Whether it's Lake, whether it's Bill, whether it's Billy, they're so damn smart. My dad used to say that guy's so smart he has to carry his brains around in a bucket. And God knows they are so talented and they're so good at what they do.
Yeah.
But man, they can get over your head so fast.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
no doubt. That's awesome. Well, fellas,
Let me say one last
yes,
thing.
One
absolutely.
last
one
thing.
more.
Yeah.
This is
So,
the first one. This is the
let's-
first one last thing.
Yeah.
The first one last thing.
So when we talk about racers in this world that this man had an impact on, okay? We've talked about some of the drag race guys. We've talked about some of the oval track guys. Let's talk about the dirt track world, right? Dirt track's a big, huge world around here.
Yeah.
Riverside Speedway,
Yeah, no doubt.
which, by the way, just celebrated its 75th anniversary.
Yeah.
When did we have the lease to
I'm
Riverside?
not commenting, but
I mean, Ron and I,
leased it?
yeah, we ran the track there for 2 or 3 years.
how bogus is that?
Oh shit! I had no idea.
Absolutely.
Godwin did too, didn't it? Didn't Godwin have that for a quick minute?
I think everybody had
Yeah,
it.
It was
everybody
a rite
said
of
it.
passage for a Memphis
Yeah.
router.
It was like that I need to do that. But anyway,
yeah.
but I mean, you talk about Sammy Swindell,
Yeah,
and I've seen Sammy, and Sammy is a wonderful man, but he's not a man of many words. And I've seen Sammy just talk to Scooter like it was his best friend in the world. And in the world of dirt late model racing, okay, RHS had this presence where we built these 430-inch engines and went out and win all these cars. And there's a cover of, is it Stock Car Racing magazine, and it was from the World 100, which was the biggest race at that time that there was for dirt lay models. And it was a picture of like turn 4 at Eldora, and there's 7 cars in the turn, and they're all kicked out sideways and just going at full throttle. Every one of those cars has an RHS logo this wide on the hood
Yeah,
because it had an RHS engine in it.
they did, and we decided that we're going to go in that racing,
Yeah,
and we're going to go in there and we're going to kick their ass with a vengeance,
yeah.
and we did.
Yeah.
And
Every single market that we decided we were going to go in and take, we went in and took it.
Yeah.
and we did that in NDRA, which is what the sanctioning body was at that time.
But do you think that could happen now?
Boy, it'd be
Like-
tough now.
No, it can
That's what I
happen
was saying. I was
now.
like, you think so?
Yeah.
Well, there always has to be someone out there that's willing to do
Yeah,
that.
but I mean,
It's
I mean, I
tough
think
now.
it can happen. It's much, much, much more difficult now because
Yeah.
it's easier for the smaller guy to tell the story and sound like the bigger guy. And I love this guy.
Which is, by the way, I figured out the whole automotive aftermarket
Yeah,
is like we're huge.
right.
It's like you're really not that big. Like it's like you're
Right.
like you're
But
like yeah, it's big. Yeah, but no.
We've talked about a lot of history here tonight and a lot of people and a lot of time.
Yeah.
And if we turn the clock back to the middle to the late 60s, one of those three RHS guys was named John McWhirter. And he told me something. He was kind of my mentor there for a number of years.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Great guy. Still alive today. He said, don't ever forget that the more you tell, the more you sell.
Yeah.
And
sense.
when you think about it, that's pretty profound.
Yeah.
And now today we tell it a different way. I mean, John had no idea we'd be telling it over the internet or webcast or any of that kind of stuff.
Right.
I mean, at the time we bought ads in Hot Rod Magazine, and I sat last night. I mean, on this side of me was the president of PRI, and on this side was Doug Evans, who was formerly in charge of Peterson Publishing and all of the
Charge of everything.
83 magazine titles.
Right.
And that's how we had to tell our story at the time.
Yeah.
And that's gone. There's none of zero.
It's on the
now.
internet now.
Completely changed.
And
Market. Wow.
you know, it's just so very different. But still,
It's different.
the more you tell, the more you sell. You tell it a different way. You tell it through different people. You tell it different stories. But the more you tell about your product and the more you get people believing in your product, the more you're going to sell.
And see, in my world, it was what wins on Sunday sells on Monday.
Yeah, it's the same
Always
thing.
been that way.
Okay, Dale Earnhardt won yesterday, so what am I going to sell today?
Yeah, it's the same thing. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's pretty profound.
Yeah. No
We
doubt.
we were the right group of people with the right resources at the right time in the right market, and we made magic happen. It's that simple. I mean, it
I
was
mean,
just
one
incredible.
last thing, number two.
Yeah.
When I saw all this stuff happening
Yeah.
with the magazines,
Yeah.
and in this world, nobody says we have to play fair. You have to be shrewd, and you have to be honest, and don't do anything wrong. But if you can take advantage and take an opportunity, you do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I went out to Southern California,
Oh man.
and I had known through the magazines a man by the name of John Bechtel,
Yeah.
who
He was
was
the-
the Carcraft editor.
Yeah, he was the editor of Carcraft.
Yep.
And he said, I want to leave and I want to start a dyno shop. I said, okay, I'm going to fund your dyno shop. Coleman didn't know this at the time. We funded.
Was this you personally?
No,
funding
no,
it?
no,
no.
So it was
No.
comp.
I got my ass tore up regularly from Coleman about how much we were spending, but
But
it
I
was
said,
worth
this
it.
was
Yep.
this was a comp group thing.
Yep.
And I said, I'm going to fund you, and I'm going to pay for the dyno time. And I've seeded the money for him to buy the equipment and do all that stuff. But I said, anytime a magazine guy wants a dyno time, he can come to West Tech and run his engine as long as it's our article featuring
It
our
had our
products.
parts in it.
You run free.
Yeah.
Well, we just owned everything in
Yeah.
print there for a period of about 10 years.
Because those magazine guys had no money, right? That was just as magazines were starting to trim
They
down.
had no budget.
They had
Right,
no money, and free dyno time if I use a Comp Cam's product.
Plus, I can go hide out for a day out there in Fontana. They'll never know where I am.
Exactly.
And John wasn't above having a bar over on the side, and maybe some strippers over.
I may have funded that too. But and here's last thing number three. During one of those sessions, one of those late night dyno sessions, myself and John Bechtel and John Barkley, who I think still alive,
Yep.
and
Yeah, I think he actually ran at the Tri-5
Really? That
I
probably.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was our
And
sales guy back then.
I don't think Freiberger was in the mix at the time.
No, this was before Freiberg.
But I don't know who it was. But we all went to some local bar in Fontana, late night, and we're drinking way too many beers. And we started talking about dynos and dyno experiences and all that. And we said, what about something where people could come and run their engines? And Engine Masters was born in that bar.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Well, a year later, Power Tour was born in that same bar with that same group of people. Now, a lot of people will claim it. Freiberger will claim it's his, but he wasn't around.
Nope.
yeah.
He wasn't anywhere near. And somebody handed him Power Tour and Drag Week and all that stuff when it was long
Yeah.
in the tooth.
Established. Yeah.
Pump gas drags was
Yeah.
Yeah.
for that. Right?
First pump gap drags was at Comp Cams on
And,
Democrat.
and
Exactly.
Freiberger may have been just a writer for him, but he wasn't anything special. And I love that guy, and I wouldn't hold back from saying it with him sitting here because he knows
And he's done great on his own.
he has. But there's been a lot of ideas born out of this side of the table.
Yeah.
Remember years and years ago, I'm sitting in a meeting with Doug Evans and Scooter, which was bad enough on itself, those two together. But anyway, Doug Evans says, man, have you guys ever seen this Clevite Engine Builder Challenge? I'm like, yeah, they get two NASCAR engine builders and they have to build an engine together and they like race each other on building this engine and making it run. He's like, yeah, I want to do that. Scooter says, that's a hell of an idea. Let's do that.
Yeah, Chris will do it.
And by the end of this meeting, right, we've hatched out this idea that we're going to build this program, except we're not going to use NASCAR engine builders. We're just going to grab some schmo out of the crowd, and we're going to build these engines, and we're going to see how fast they can do it.
Yeah.
And make it run for a minute. It's got to run for a minute to make sure they did
60
it right,
seconds.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm literally writing this crap on a piece of legal pad. Oh my God, this is a great idea. Yeah. And at the end of the meeting, Scooter looks at me and says, "How are you going to do that?" And I'm like,
Quickly call Larry Shaw
Holy
and said,
crap,
build me some engine stands.
yeah, I
and,
called Larry Shaw, the guy that makes all the dirt track chassis in the world, right? And I said,
and not
"Larry."
only do you have to do it, but oh, by the way, we got the first program here in 3 weeks.
Yeah. Plenty of time. So Larry built me these engine stands that had a little fuel tank and had a battery, and we didn't worry about radiator because it only had to run for a minute, so we weren't worried about it getting hot.
Right.
And Larry built these stands, and we put this program together, and I went and watched the Clevite do a couple of their builds with the NASCAR guys, and I'm like, okay, there's how they do it, and they do this, and okay. And we put this program together, and was it on the Power Tour? That
I
we
don't
did?
remember.
I think we did.
is
it
there
on
any
the Power
video?
Tour.
I know.
Is there
I
any
know.
Oh
video?
yeah, there's.
Well, I
video.
know you guys did
yeah.
it.
It's
like,
out there
Street
somewhere.
Racing Nationals.
Yeah.
What would it be labeled or called?
It's in Comp
Engine
Cam's
Builder.
Engine Builder Duel.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we
They did it at many events.
I think
Billy
they-
Carroll was even involved in his early days
I
there.
think they may still do it, but it was the damnedest thing. We would have these engines, and they were all small block Chevys, relatively easy to put together. And we'd have all the parts laid out. And I went to Snap-on and got them to give us a bunch of tools. And I mean, we had like a TV playing there that had it was like a
countdown thing.
timer.
Oh, that's cool.
I mean, that was high tech back then. We had something that went 14, 15, 16, and we put this program together in a matter of weeks, and we went out and opened this to the public, like went out in the crowd and like, hey, you come here and build this engine.
Yeah, because I mean,
We had no idea who this guy was or what he knew.
all you had to do was just sign up. That was it.
Okay, you read.
And-
So it was a sign up sheet.
Oh yeah. And so to test for this, right? We put all this crap together, and I went and this is no exaggeration. Okay, she's up in the house if you want to talk to her. I went and got the ladies out of the office at Comp Cams. I went and got my wife Ruth Ann, and I said, I need you to build this engine in this competition.
I mean,
She's like,
probably Ethel and who knows. who
yeah. I mean, you name it, they did it, right? And we did it like 4 or 5 weeks, 4 or 5 nights in a row, right? Okay, ladies, I need you to build this engine. And they're like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, look, I've got a guy here that's going to tell you what to do. I got a guy here that's going to hand you the shit to do it. Just put it together, do what they say. And we got where these ladies were building these engines in like 45, 50 minutes. And I'm talking about putting it together, hit the button, start it, wama, 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 and this thing runs. And I'm like, holy shit, if we can do this, we can make this work. And we went out and we debuted this thing, I think on the Power Tour. And we're like, okay, you come here, build this engine. And these guys were like, I've never done this in my life. Like, what are you about to now?
That's awesome.
I think it went through some kind of sign up process through
Yeah.
the day or whatever, but it was fun.
That was the legal side of it. I wasn't worried about that.
exactly.
You know?
Like,
So I had one of my guys on the tech line as their coach. And then I was like the goofball MC talking about it. I'm like, oh, you're putting the crankshaft in now, all this stuff. And it was the biggest hit. People loved it.
And crowd engagement. Man.
Oh, my God. We'd have a couple of hundred people watching this thing.
Yeah, because the stands were out in front of it and all that.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
I mean that. I don't know if that pushed the Hot Rodders of Tomorrow
Who
thing.
knows?
Yeah, I
or
think
not,
that
but I mean,
kinda-
But that competition that was just amazing.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
The
And
kids
so-
at the high schools, like it's high school competition, and
Yeah.
they have all these like regionals, that
Different
come
layers
together,
of
and
it,
then,
yeah.
and then they all come at.
And that
SEMA
came out of a
PRI,
meeting with him and Doug Evans
Yeah.
saying, good idea, Chris, you do it. You know? But one of the coolest things was we would be sitting there and we'd have all these manufacturers on the midway at a Power Tour stop or whatever it was, not U.S. Nationals, but Carcraft Nationals or Street Rod Nationals, whatever.
Yep.
And we'd roll one of these stands out with one of these engines on it. And I could hit the button and I could start that damn engine right there in the middle of the midway. Wah, wah, wah. And people would just flock to it. I mean, it's like you were giving away money.
Yeah.
You had this engine sitting there with it was just incredible. And you run it for 20, 30 seconds and you shut it off.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have had a damn cash register sitting there and you couldn't have made money faster. It was just incredible. But that is the spirit.
Yeah.
That's the passion. That guy looked at that engine and said, holy shit, I want one of those.
Yeah.
And he couldn't.
They sell themselves.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah, and we weren't even selling engines. We were just selling, be part of this.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you whose engine it was or whose block it was or who I beat out of the cylinder heads or anything.
I think it was
Didn't
that
matter.
big, fat, blonde-headed pig woman at
Why'd you
GM.
bring her up? Anyway,
It's
That's,
just something fun to do at an event. Really.
so
I mean,
it was incredible, and I think they still do it today. There's just something
some-
about
Yeah.
you roll that thing out and you hit the damn starter and it fires.
Yeah.
And people are like, "Oh my God, that engine's running," and they just flock to it like moths to a light.
It's fun.
So, all right, last thing, and I'll get us out of here.
Well, I don't at the
Yes,
at
please,
the
go
risk
ahead.
at the risk of not hearing about the pig woman from GM.
That's where I was headed. That's where I was headed.
Okay, that's
get-
that's gonna get us
okay.
out the big woman.
Yeah.
We're all heading the same
We're heading
direction.
in the same direction. So, years and years later, the LS engine comes out. Okay, and it's a great platform. Everybody loves it. LS is the hot rodders engine of today, right? And so, there's this lady that's in charge of GM Performance. I don't even remember her name. Do you?
Pig
It's
woman.
coming to me.
Okay. So anyway, this woman hates us.
Miss Piggy.
Lisa,
It was
Lisa.
We're getting there.
Ah, we don't need to say last name.
So Lisa had the trademark or the copyright on LS.
yes.
She's a very powerful woman.
She's a very powerful woman. I'm going to just go out on a limb and say she was a diversity hire at GM. But anyway,
That's probably
That's Miss Lisa to you, sir.
REFFERT.
there you go.
In case there's any.
And Lisa, if you're listening, we love you, but God, you were
I
our
think
enemy
she's
back then.
selling shoes at Payless.
Yeah. So Lisa owned the copyright or the trademark on LS.
Yeah.
Well, we were in the LS business. We were the first aftermarket company to make LS parts, camshafts, rocker arms,
For the most part,
lifters.
yeah. I
Yeah,
think
we
so.
were there. We were there. And how we got those patterns and designs and
We're not-
how
Well,
we got
that
ahead of
doesn't-
that, we don't need to talk about
Those
that.
are industry secrets.
Yeah,
Running
yeah,
along.
No,
Lisa.
no reason to talk about that. But anyway, we had it, and we were the first in the aftermarket doing this. And we had this brand called LSX.
The block
LS.
was going to
That
be.
was you
It was
guys.
going to be an LSX block.
You
yes.
guys. That's when
Absolutely.
you started casting the LS block.
LSX block was our block.
Know
Yeah.
all about it.
And
Didn't
the
know I'm
LSX
sitting next to the grandfather for
And,
that.
and the LSX manifold, more
Yeah.
importantly.
Yeah, manifold was first.
They're
Yeah.
still so. They're
We
still
can-
very expensive.
We can raise the
by way.
hood on this Camaro back here and show you one if
off
you
the
need.
LS
But anyway,
one. Yeah.
so we had this idea, and let me rephrase that. Scooter had this idea. If you're going to make an LS manifold, you need to make it out of polymer, plastic,
Right.
because you don't need to make it out of aluminum.
Well, you can make a better. The design's better.
Yeah,
in
you can
plastic.
just do a
You can
better
do more.
manifold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we went and we partnered with Keith Wilson at the time,
At the time,
because Keith Wilson was probably the best there was in the industry at that time.
and I think he
Airflow.
still is.
Yeah, bar none. Keith Wilson knows more about airflow than anybody in the business. The guy is like one of those savants
Yeah.
in the world of
It's called
airflow.
autism. Let's be careful.
Whatever. Like, he's that guy. I remember being in oh my God, this is terrible, Stuttgart, Germany, at the Mercedes factory. And I'm walking around the museum with Keith, and we're looking at an old Formula One car, right? And he's looking at the wing on the nose, and he's like, see the way that air's pulling up there? That's putting downforce on the right rear tire. And if you look at that, that's pulling air into the motor. And I'm like, oh my God, man, what are you talking about? Anyway, Keith is that guy.
That was his life.
That was his life, and there's nobody better at it than him. And Keith, if you're listening to this, man, I love you. I wish I could talk to you today. Wish I'd love to catch up with you, but I still remember that story you told about swimming out to that island. But anyway, another story. Anyway, Keith worked with us, and we developed the best airflow you could imagine for an LS. And we built that into the LSX manifold, right? And we started selling this thing, and I'll never forget, Scooter came to me and he said, it's not just good enough that we have the best product in the world. When a guy buys this, I want him to be proud of it. I want to make the best packaging that we can make for this manifold. When this guy spends, at that time, I think it was $800.
It was obscenely expensive, and
Yeah, I
still
think-
is.
Well, I said that because they hold their value.
Well, it
They're
is.
very sought after
Yeah.
still.
So at that time, I think it was $800. He said, when this guy spends $800 of his money that he doesn't let his kids buy shoes, and he doesn't buy formula that month, and all this, and he comes up with $800, I want him to be proud of this thing. Right?
Yeah.
So we made this box that was like opening the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah, I mean, the
It just-
box costs like $100.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It could have been a $700
Yeah,
intake,
yeah.
but the
Douglas had a stroke when he saw the box. Right? But anyway, you opened the box and the angels went, whoa! You know, it was just incredible. But anyway, it taught us a lesson about marketing and packaging. But anyway, we sell this manifold, and it goes out, and it's the biggest freaking hit in the world. Everybody in the world that has an LS wants one of these manifolds. And then, what's her name, Lisa?
Oh.
REFF.
Miss Piggy.
Oh my God, did we piss her off? I mean, because
Well, no, hold on. During all this process, she looks at the LSX name and she said, "Wow, that's cool."
Oh no.
And she rings up her legal department
Legal team trying
and
to grab
said,
that.
"Check and see if this is registered." And Coleman didn't do it,
Oh no.
and they did. And
GM has a fairly efficient
Robust
legal team.
but they pissed me off, and that didn't stop me from going toe to toe with her.
REFF.
It was terrible to be part of this.
We're at the power tour in somewhere in Michigan or something, and it was hot. Man, it was hot. And it's the end of the day, and everybody's wound down. They're having a cocktail and sort of calming down and decompressing.
Except Scooter.
Well, I was good until I saw the big fat pig walk by. And I said, "Yo."
Yo.
And here she comes. And she and I are toe to toe with each other, like nose
to nose,
ready
yeah.
to rear back.
I thought he was going to hit her.
And well, she'd have whipped my ass though.
Oh, yeah.
But here's Coleman and Doug Evans. They see it happening,
Stop.
and they run over and push us apart. And whatever. Anyway,
And she's got her facts together. She knows she owns the copyright, the trademark, whatever the hell
Right.
it is.
there's nothing I can do.
And right.
I
She's
just
got
tell
us
her-
by the shorties.
Right.
I said, "Look, you're legally you got it, but this just isn't right."
Yeah.
I said, "This is an industry about heart and soul, and it's just a business to you."
She's OEM corporate. Yeah.
And
And,
she said,
and
"Well,
we've been selling under that brand for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When all this
oh yeah,
happened.
we could have fought it, but you can't win against GM."
No.
So she and I had our disagreement,
That is an understatement.
Well, probably a year later, and I come in one morning and my light's blinking on my phone. And I answer it, and she said, Scooter, this is Lisa. You were right. Blink.
Oh,
That's it.
That's it.
Wow. No shit.
So that was pretty cool.
Well, so he's being modest, okay?
Yeah.
So in that
job, though.
toe-to-toe confrontation, there were several colorful adjectives.
explicative.
Could be.
Explicative.
Right.
Could be.
But the final one was Scooter told her, I don't have to win this legal battle. I just have to outlast you.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said.
And I
And
thought,
that's what she said I was right about, I guess.
yeah, because she got fired and he's still around.
Oh.
But it was just one of those moments in life where you went, oh, geez. And, you know,
But it was cool.
yeah. But it was one of those battles that we fought, and it took a long time, but we won it. And if you look out there today, like I said, there's an LSX manifold.
There's an LSX.
There's
magazine.
an LSX block.
Yep.
There's an LSX head on that car
You know,
behind us.
And there may have
There's an
been,
LXS business that Derek Scott owns, I think is the name of it. You know?
well, I mean, GM may own the trademark now, but we own all of the history and all
Right.
everything else. So,
They may have won the battle, but we won the war.
well, we win the war. They win the battle. You're right.
Lasted.
It was something else. But, you know, that's just one of those things where, yeah, they may have had the copyright or the trademark, whatever it was,
Yeah.
but we had the market.
Yep. And people believed in us, and it
Yeah.
was easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And their claim was that they put it on some crate engine that they had. Said, this is the LXX engine. Well, yeah, but we make this manifold that fits every engine.
And everybody
that was
wanted
there
that
before.
manifold.
Oh, they still do.
Yeah.
We sold so
If you
many
got an
of those
LS1,
manifolds.
that's the one you
it's
want.
still
Well, you know,
You know,
that manifold, it cost a lot of money to make.
the
The
first
tooling on that manifold, the tooling cost $700,000, and there was another $100,000 in engineering.
Where is that American-made product? The injection molding. I'm
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's
In
made
New
up
York.
in Michigan.
New York.
New York?
It's put together in Michigan,
Okay.
Okay.
but
So they got
well, I don't know where anymore. It's actually
the original.
When we
Originally,
were involved, it was
was
made
in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, that design is, that's up.
It's legendary.
Let me tell y'all a secret here. So this is a little industry secret.
Well, don't be giving away.
No, this is too good. I have to share it. The guy's dead, so he can't come back to me now. So we're at the SEMA show one year.
His family might be able to.
very, yeah.
Don't put
Anyway,
don't put yourself in a spot, man.
We're at the SEMA show one year. It was the year we debuted that manifold, and Scooter knows what I'm talking about. And we're all at the SEMA show, and we're getting ready for the show. We're getting our collars right and getting set.
All the shit's covered up
Oh,
with
my
the
God, yeah.
sheets. And,
yeah.
I mean,
right.
you know what it's
Yeah,
like to
yep.
be at the SEMA show. And here comes Vic Edelbrock.
This is like at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, way before the show starts.
Yeah.
And
He's just now getting over his.
easy.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Remember,
Right. Just forget that part. So Vic's walking down, and Vic always had an entourage.
Yeah.
No other way to put it.
Yeah.
He had 5 or 6 people with him that were telling him how great he is. And I don't mean that as a slant. What Vic did was incredible.
Yep.
He's every bit as much of an icon as Scooter is today. But Vic walks by and he looks at that manifold and he stops. And I saw this with my own eyes, okay? And he looks at that manifold and he says, that's the way to make a manifold.
Yeah.
And then he and his entourage walk off.
And he couldn't do it because he had a foundry.
Yeah, he had an aluminum foundry.
Can't make
You
that
can't go.
with a foundry.
Can't go
No,
plastic.
yeah, right.
No.
Yeah. No way.
But
Wow.
if I had been able to video that, or I mean, there were several of us that saw it.
Yeah.
If we had been able to video that and then play it,
Yeah.
like, oh my God, put this on YouTube.
That was the Ferrari tipping his hat at Ford.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, it
And
was
one
of
other
those
little
things.
thing that happened right then
Yeah.
is, I never told Coleman how much we were spending on that thing until we were about
He had a stroke.
$450,000 in.
Oh well, he's already in. Now.
It was not pretty.
He would have. He did tell me that's the dumbest thing.
Yeah.
You'll never get through this. It's the dumbest thing ever. And
And that was after he recovered from the stroke he
Yeah.
had. Yeah.
Yeah.
so
It.
one of these before the show at SEMA things, and Ron comes in. He's got his entourage. Oh, holy shit! Ron's got his entourage,
Yeah.
and he steps up and he says, "I'm the only son of a bitch in the industry that had the balls to make something like that. I got it now.
That's funny.
It's all working for me now."
Man,
That's right. So we've had some fun.
Yeah,
no doubt. Like, this is by far the longest one. It'll probably end up being two.
This will be a
I know
two-parter.
that.
Yeah, this will be a two-parter for
That
sure.
damn
but,
cuckoo clock keeps going off.
but yeah, but
It's that one over there. I keep
but
watching.
absolutely worth it. And just, I mean,
I mean, we didn't even get into the good stuff.
I know. Well, hell,
We're always invited back.
Okay, that's right.
We can
Let's do it again.
Seriously,
We
I mean,
can do another one.
That's we got.
yeah.
They still sell whiskey, don't they?
I got plenty, bro.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I got plenty.
I love it. No, I had a blast.
And we did too. This was fun.
Yeah, it really was.
I'm glad I volunteered Chris Shop to have this because it
I
made
And,
him.
and told me, I just need you to sit in the corner and not speak.
Yeah, I might have said that.
Yeah. Well, on behalf of all of us and everyone that listens, our millions of adoring
All
fans.
12 of them.
Yeah, well, Finland, thank you
Finland,
again.
thank
for
you, Finland.
But it's really important. It's important to capture these stories. And whoever listens to this eons from now, when the aliens listen to them,
Yeah, right.
they get a scope and a depth and breadth of what you guys have done for the industry, for the culture, not just locally but internationally on a world stage. So thank you for agreeing to do this. I think you had a great time.
Thank you guys for doing it because I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
So
We don't
I'm
either.
saying-
Yeah, it's,
Look, it goes back to what we said earlier. It was the right group of people at the right time with the right resources, with the right team, and the right leadership. I mean, the way I introduced people to it today is Scooter had his foot in the door, and Gordon had his foot in the door at some of these places, and it was my job to just kick the door open and go in and make the deal, And we had such great success. We won every race. We won every championship. It's just incredible, and we haven't even touched on so many of them. But
Wait a minute.
uh-oh.
No, we got it.
We can't stop without talking about Rusty.
Rusty Wallace.
Rusty won.
They in the plate cam wars. Rusty sucked. He was good. And we made a cam one time that was just so much better.
Well, he changed the engine builders.
Yeah, he changed
Changed the engine
builders.
builders. Nothing against the guy that was before.
And this new program came together, and it was like 15 horsepower better, and which a plate motor is like you got a turbocharger.
100 horsepower, yeah.
And also we said you can't run over whatever.
Well, hang on, let me tell this one if you don't mind. So this is so fun. So they're on the dyno and they're just flogging this thing, and it's 12, 15, I don't remember what it was, but it's by far the best.
I mean, they're beside themselves. They're peeing on themselves.
And I'm going to quote Mike Eggy, the engine builder at the time. He called me and he says, "This thing is so good. Rusty's dick's as hard as a damn camshaft right now." And it was just so incredible. I mean, all the moons aligned and all that crap, right? And this thing was awesome. And he says, we're ready to go. And he's like, Rusty's going to be able to go and be competitive. And he never was before this, right? And we said, look, that's great. Everything's wonderful. But
Well, he said, we want 20 of these.
yeah. He said, I need 20 of these. I need to own this so that no one ever gets it.
And we
And
said,
I
no,
said, sorry, bro, can't do that.
they're not for sale.
Yeah. And he says, what the hell do you mean? I said, well, you guys don't run our decal. You don't support us. So I'm going to take this information that I've gathered from you, and I'm going to sell it to all the other teams. What the hell do you mean that? Chris, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, hey, man, that's just the way it works. You're not supporting me. I can only do so much for you.
He said,
You-
but Roger doesn't like decals.
And I said, but Scooter does. But I'm like, look, you came to me, you asked for help, I've helped you, and it's been successful. Hey, God love you, but I got some shit to sell over here, so I'm going to call some people. And we got in this argument. And Mike Eggy's a dear friend of mine, right? But I said, look, you don't run a decal, I can't help you.
The next morning, the door opens. Somebody comes in standing in front of Ethel and said, where's Chris and Scooter? and it's Rusty with a big picture with a decal right on the front fender.
No doubt.
No shit.
And somewhere that picture's either in my office or around.
Yeah, it's around.
I bet he threatened not to drive anymore.
Oh my God.
There's another
Yeah, we don't need to tell
other
that
part of
story.
this story that we won't need to go
So-
into.
You got to save something for the
So
next one.
we told Rusty, look, this thing's awesome and it's great, but you can't turn it over. I think it was 7,400.
Something, some number, whatever the number
You
was.
cannot turn this thing over
Like
7,400.
not even 50 or
Yeah,
over.
not 7,402. 7,400 is all you
capped
can do.
out at 70.
That's it. It'll kill itself at 7,401, right? And he said, okay, man, no problem. And Rusty was a hell of a driver, and he was a hell of a guy. We loved working with him. But so they go to, I don't remember, I think it was Talladega. And they go to this race with this first engine package, and Rusty is kicking their ass. Like he's leading the first time in a restrictor
he's
plate
never
race.
led a plate race.
No, he doesn't know how to lead a restrictor plate race.
Super excited.
And he's out front, he's kicking their ass, and Earnhardt's behind him, and Jeff Gordon's behind him, and it was just this hell of a day. And I'm in town. I had left Saturday morning, flew home. Billy and I were actually at home, and we're watching this race on TV. And it was one of these deals where Rusty was on the damn pole for this race, which is unheard of, right?
Yeah.
So they put an in-car camera in his car. So there's this car right over
This is
over his
very
camera.
early in car.
Yeah,
cameras.
Yeah.
camera right over his shoulder. It probably weighed 100 pounds, but anyway.
Things.
But this camera showed the tachometer,
Oh, no. It's
and we had
75.
told him do not go over 7,400, and everything was great until they had a pit stop. And Rusty came down pit road, and he downshifted this damn thing to slow down the car,
Zingy.
and it went to about 8,500.
Yeah. Blew
And
it
he's sitting there in the pit stall, and it's puffing white smoke out the damn
your
exhaust,
ring that
and you can hear the thing just it's dying right there, right?
He said it sounded like a couple of people in the exhaust with Hammersburg beating on
Banging on
can
garbage
lids.
cans is what
They
he
were,
said
they
later.
were a little forward to that.
Oh my God, it was terrible. And he took off they changed the right side tires, and he took off, and that thing,
Died
it,
before
it didn't even make it out of turn 4, and it just
it was dead.
done, right?
And I said, hey, it did exactly what it was supposed to do.
And so a few weeks later, it was funny because, okay, go back to TV. Me and Billy saw the TAC go to 8,500 or whatever it was, right? And my phone rings, and this is in the days of landline, and it's Billy. Billy says, did you see the freaking TAC? I'm like, yes, I did. And he says, there's no way this thing's going to live. And I'm like, I know, Billy, I know, but what the hell do we do? We're in Memphis. He's in Daytona or Talladega, wherever the hell it was. And we watched that thing blow up as we were talking to each other. And we're just like, oh, my God, this is terrible, And Monday morning.
Penske's not the easiest man to live with under those situations.
Roger's fairly strict, good word,
Yeah.
I guess. But anyway, Monday morning, my phone's blowing up in the office. And they're like, what the hell happened? You told us this was a run. I'm like, time out, bro.
I got video evidence.
Yeah, we saw it on TV where this thing went to 8,500. They said, what are you talking about? I said, the damn downshift going into pit
Because
road.
Rusty swore he never oversped.
And he was
Not
right.
me.
Not
Rusty
on
said
the
it.
track. It
I
was when he
never
dropped
ran
it.
it over 7,400, but going into pit road, that bitch went to 8,500.
He tried to Jake break it into
Yeah,
pit road.
yeah,
Well, bad
exactly.
Jake.
It did
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
And,
It'll slow
and
you
it-
down.
It killed
Call the
itself,
Bendix people. It's a caliper issue.
Oh my God!
Right.
But that was
Right.
so much fun to witness and to be part of. And so a few weeks later, to date this was when Rusty had the deal with Elvis Presley Enterprises. Okay,
I do remember that.
he had the Elvis car.
Yeah, the Elvis car.
I think it was the Elvis car that blew fucking sky high. Right? So,
It's a hometown legacy. Pooping all over the
so a
nest.
few weeks later, they have this huge freaking deal down at Elvis Presley's club on Beale Street. And Billy and I think you were there, and we all go down. We're special invites of Rusty Wallace, and we go down. Hey, we got this special thing
VIP,
hanging around our neck. We're VIPs. And like, well, Rusty's upstairs. Go upstairs. So we go upstairs. Rusty's like, hey, guys, what's happening? And he's happy to thrill it. And he's like, what the hell happened wherever we were? I'm like, you fucking overwrapped it. It did what it was supposed to do. And he says, well, now that you talk about it, it's when he made the comment that Scooter made. He said, sound like a bunch of people in the exhaust pipe banging on garbage cans. I'm like, well, yeah, those were the valves coming out of it. But, it was just one of those moments where everything aligned and everything was great until that happened. But Rusty recognized what we had done for the program, and he was like, you're right. I didn't think about the downshift. You guys were right. Keep helping us. Keep helping us get
That's
better.
my bad, yo.
Yeah. My bad on that $50,000 engine that blew sky high.
That's a $50,000.
Yeah,
I got that. Rusty's got that.
But
I doubt if he still told Penske though.
yeah. No, as far as Roger's concerned, that was all on us.
well, you had the video evidence. Thank God for the poll.
But
right?
that was the kind of fun that we had doing this stuff. That was kind of relationship we had, and we tell people about it today, and you guys recognize it, but most people, I don't talk a lot about this shit that we did because people don't believe it. They think I'm making this shit up or lying about it or exaggerating, but
Y'all got better stories back then.
yeah.
Well, you
I mean,
don't get to
it was
survive
incredible.
as a company and who you guys are and maintain those
stuff
relationships
is-
without stuff happening. It's
Yeah,
gonna happen.
Absolutely real.
It's gonna happen.
And neither one of us have a dog in this race anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
And the people that were involved during that period of time dealt with the people that they trusted.
Yeah.
And when we didn't have the Billy Godbolds at the time to stick their necks out and learn the why behind it. We just had to do it.
Yeah.
Let's try it and let's cap off that damn wastegate and see what happens.
But I will say that restrictor plate load was one of Billy's. I would have said.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah, we got to.
We had a ton of fun in our earlier lives, and
We're gonna do it again. We'll do it.
yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sitting there thinking of 20 more.
Hey, we got.
we haven't even talked about Hendrick Motorsports.
No.
Oh, my God.
no.
That'll be a whole
Please.
different episode.
Don't bring that one up.
On the next episode.
Yeah. Well, Javier, get us out of here, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, all right. This has been Hot Rod Blues from parts unknown Mississippi with my guy Scooter and Chris. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
It's awesome.